dawn thinned the fog over Kintsu Temple as the bell tolled once. The courtyard breathed. A sparrow startled from the cypress. Ethan felt the sound ring through his ribs like an accusation. Master Rowan said, "A cherished student has left the way." The words fell like a stone into still water. Marcus folded his arms and smirked at the silence. Lily steadied her breath, eyes soft with worry. Ethan's pulse climbed the temple steps faster than his feet. The bell tolled twice. Master Rowan said, "Noise grows where clinging thrives." Ethan searched the faces for mercy and found only mirrors. Iris moved a broom with the patience of rain. Quinn stood at the gate as if she had always been there. Ethan said, "Who has strayed?" Master Rowan looked through him. He said, "Who hears that question?" The third toll cut the morning open. Ethan felt the old ache stir, a shadow without a name. The cypress hissed. The sparrow's wing beat wrote a brief scripture in air. The courtyard waited, bright and bare. The bell's echo lived in the corridors as Ethan walked the cloister. The wood smelled of rain and soapstone. Lily matched his pace without a word. She said, "Breath first." He tried and failed. His chest tightened like a fist. Master Rowan's words gnawed at quiet corners he thought were safe. Marcus's laugh, remembered, tapped the ribs like knuckles. Ethan said, "If I have strayed, why do my feet still find this floor?" Lily smiled with a sadness that did not leak. She said, "Feet move, mind wanders, heart waits." A cricket sang behind the paper wall, its metronome of doubt steady and small. Ethan touched a knotted beam and felt its age. He felt his own pulse answer. The corridor gave back the sound of souls, as if counting steps into an unknown sum. A drop fell from the eave and broke on the stone like a tiny bell. In the meditation hall, cushions waited like islands on a dark lake. Master Rowan stood at the doorway as if guarding a threshold no one could name. He said, "Sit where the wind cannot move you." Ethan folded to the cushion and felt the floor rise through his bones. Marcus took a place 2 mats away and looked bored on purpose. Ethan closed his eyes and noise swarmed like bees in a jar. Breath snagged. The jar shook. Master Rowan said, "Let the bees keep their music." Ethan tried to let the swarm sing without swatting. His shoulders loosened, then clenched again. Lily's calm was a lighthouse he could not reach. The hall creaked in the old language of wood. Somewhere, a kettle sighed into readiness. Ethan said, "What if I never quiet?" Master Rowan answered nothing, and the silence wore the shape of an answer. After the sit, Marcus cornered Ethan by the rein chain. He said, "Peace looks good on posters, not people." The chain clicked like small bones. Ethan kept his eyes on the courtyard pool. He said, "Today it looks far from me." Marcus laughed without joy. He said, "Maybe it never existed." Lily arrived with 2 cups and handed one to Ethan. She said, "Sip, not solve." Steam curled up like a thin prayer. Marcus rolled his eyes, but took the other cup. He said, "To problems that taste like tea." Ethan let the warmth map his throat. The wind tugged the chain, and the pool wrote circles that refused to hold shape. Ethan said, "I am tired of chasing water." Lily's quiet smile agreed with nothing, and judged nothing. Evening pulled gold across the tiles as Master Rowan walked the garden path. Ethan followed, not invited, not refused. Crickets rehearsed. The cypress wrote long shadows over sand. Master Rowan said, "Clarity is not found by hammering silence." Ethan swallowed the urge to ask how. Quinn appeared at the far bend, as if drawn by the same hinge of light. She said, "Losing your way is a gate." Ethan felt the word gate open something soft inside the stern place. Iris passed with a lantern already lit against a darkness that had not yet arrived. Master Rowan paused by a stone lantern. He said, "When the lantern is lit, do not confuse the flame for the night." Ethan let the words settle like pollen. A koi rose, and stitched a small seam through the pond. The day exhaled. Night waited without hurry. Ethan sat in the meditation hall long after the others left. The cushions smelled of dust and candle smoke. His breath stuttered in his throat like a broken reed. He pressed his palms together, but no calm arrived. Master Rowan's words gnawed his ribs. He whispered, "I am hollow." The paper walls answered with silence. The silence grew teeth. Ethan's thoughts clashed like swords in a chamber too small. He tried counting breaths, but the numbers slipped away. He said, "If there is peace, why is it hidden?" His chest felt like stone pressing in. The hall darkened as clouds passed the lantern's glow. The world weighed heavy, as though even stillness mocked him. Lily found Ethan pacing beneath the maple tree. Leaves whispered above, brittle in autumn wind. She watched him wear a path into the soil. She said, "You breathe like a storm." He stopped, but did not look up. He said, "Every sit empties me until nothing holds." Lily stepped closer, her face steady as the trunk behind her. She said, "You mistake emptiness for loss." Ethan clenched his fists until nails pressed skin. His eyes searched the branches for something that did not fall. Lily's voice was soft as moss. She said, "Peace is not stolen, it waits." A gust rattled the branches, scattering 3 leaves to the earth like notes he could not read. Night came fast with the storm. Ethan walked the corridor as rain hammered the roof. He pressed his forehead against a wooden post, eyes shut, teeth clenched. He whispered, "Why do I fail?" The thunder swallowed the words. He thought of Marcus' laughter, and it burned. He thought of Master Rowan's silence, and it cut. Lightning flashed, painting his shadow sharp on the wall. His chest rose and fell like a sea without harbor. A drop leaked through the roof and struck his hand. He opened his eyes and saw nothing but the rain beyond the shoji screen. The storm outside sang of a world, louder than his heart. Marcus leaned against the gate post, dry beneath the overhang. His grin was thin as paper. He said, "So much silence, yet you look ready to scream." Ethan stopped short, rain dripping from his sleeves. He said, "This silence is a cage." Marcus chuckled low. He said, "No cage is worse than one you build yourself." Ethan's fists shook. He said, "At least I am trying." Marcus raised an eyebrow, eyes sharp as steel. He said, "Trying is clinging. You'll break before you bend." The rain throbbed like a drum beyond them, washing every word in cold weight. Ethan's chest ached, caught between anger and despair. At dawn, the garden smelled of wet pine. Master Rowan walked slowly along the raked sand, staff tapping in rhythm. Ethan trailed, his eyes heavy from sleepless night. Master Rowan stopped and faced him. He said, "Impermanence does not wound, only clinging does." Ethan's lips parted, but no answer came. His thoughts knelt before the weight of those words. Rowan turned back to the sand, tracing patterns with his staff. He said, "Do not chase the silence. Let it arrive uncalled." A crow broke across the sky, black wings slicing pale light. Ethan felt something tremble within. That was not despair. It was softer, smaller, like the start of breath. Master Rowan led Ethan to the courtyard where wind stitched stray needles across stone. He said, "Sweep without chasing. Hear the pause between breaths." Ethan lifted the broom and felt his jaw lock. The wind mocked his strokes, undoing each careful line. Master Rowan placed a small bell on the stair. He said, "When the bell is silent within you, stop." Ethan nodded and began again, arms burning as rhythm fought weather. Marcus watched from the gate with a tired half-smile that bit. Lily stood near the cypress, hands folded, eyes steady. Ethan said, "How do I hear silence while moving?" Master Rowan did not answer. The broom rasped, a metronome of hope and defeat. A cloud crossed the sun, and the air cooled. Ethan felt the ache inside push against his ribs like a blunt blade. He swept faster and lost the line. The bell did not ring, yet his thoughts did. Hours folded into raw muscle and restless breath. Ethan redrew the same clean path a dozen times and watched the wind unmake it. He said, "This labor empties me into anger." Lily stepped closer and listened to the gusts. She said, "Let the wind do its work, and you do yours." Ethan tried slower strokes, then slower still, and found only a louder mind. The bell on the stair glimmered like a small moon. Marcus called, "Try sweeping your head." Ethan swallowed the retort, but pride rose like heat. He said, "I will finish before noon." The wind rose as if to laugh. Master Rowan watched with a gaze that did not weigh or spare. Ethan's hands trembled. He said, "I cannot hold the line or let it go." A swallow sketched the air above the broom and was gone. Quinn appeared at the outer gate as clouds gathered like folded paper. She said, "The line stays straight when the heart stops measuring." Ethan kept sweeping, but his eyes flicked toward her. He said, "If I do not measure, how do I know the path?" Quinn stepped into the courtyard, light on her feet, gaze bright and unreadable. She said, "You know by walking it and vanishing." The wind softened for a breath, then returned with mischief. Ethan slowed until each stroke felt like listening with his arms. The rasp of straw met the whisper of stone, and something inside him loosened, then gripped again. He said, "I vanish and return at once." Quinn smiled as if at weather. She said, "Let returning be the vanishing." Lily watched, a small nod anchoring her breath. The bell waited like an unopened letter. The wind hurled a fresh drift across the immaculate path, and Ethan's patience split. He drove the broom too hard and scraped a harsh arc into the sand. Marcus clapped once, sharp and small. He said, "Perfection meets weather and folds." Ethan's face flared hot. He said, "Then let the weather sweep." Master Rowan's gaze held the storm in place. He said, "Break open, not outward." Ethan felt shame rise with the anger and churn them both. He said, "I am tired of being a lesson." The broom faltered. The bell did not move, yet it sounded inside him like a warning. Lily took one breath, measured like a shoreline. She said, "You are tired of the fight you started." Ethan stared at the ruined ark and could not find a way to mend it. Iris entered with a rake and a lantern unlit, as if evening had already sent word. She did not speak. She traced a single clean line beside Ethan's broken ark and bowed to the ground. The gesture was a soft bell. Ethan felt the weight in his chest shift to something hollow and clear. He said, "I have been chasing the pause." Iris lifted the rake and let a breeze blur her work, then drew it again without frown or sigh. Master Rowan said, "Learn the hand that draws after erasing." Marcus looked away as if the quiet had become bright. Lily's eyes warmed. Quinn stood at the gate, a shadow that understood. Ethan placed the broom lightly on the sand and waited for his heart to arrive. The wind moved, and he did not chase. The unseen bell rested. Ethan dreamed of the garden, yet the sand was black and shifting like ash. He walked barefoot and felt heat rise through the grains. A shadow followed him, familiar yet faceless. It whispered with his own voice, "You have failed every silence." He turned and saw a figure shaped like himself, eyes hollow, chest bound in cords of smoke. Ethan said, "I did not summon you." The shadow laughed and answered, "You have carried me always." The cypress bent low, branches like hands clawing toward him. He reached for the bell on the stair, but it melted into the ground. Ethan fell to his knees and whispered, "I cannot walk with you chained to me." The shadow knelt too and pressed its face close, eyes bleeding grief. It said, "Then stop running." The dream cracked into light, and Ethan woke with sweat like rain. Morning washed pale across the courtyard as Ethan faced Master Rowan. He said, "The shadow clings even in dreams." Rowan placed a hand on his staff, unmoved by wind. He said, "You suffer not from shadow but from the fist that grips it." Ethan swallowed the dryness in his throat. He said, Then release is a wound deeper than binding. Rowan's eyes narrowed like dawn behind clouds. He said, release is seeing the chain was never iron. Ethan felt his heart stumble at the words. Lily lingered behind him, silent witness, hands pressed together. Rowan's gaze broke through the fog and found Ethan's chest. He said, stop guarding the wound as if it keeps you whole. Ethan lowered his eyes, ashamed of the tears forming unbidden. That evening, Lily sat with Ethan by the pond. The koi swam beneath lantern reflections, circles folding into circles. She said, you fight your shadow as if it were stranger, yet it is your twin. Ethan closed his eyes. He said, if it is twin, why does it feel like enemy? Lily dipped her hand into the pond, scattering ripples that broke the light. She said, enemy and twin are names. Water does not keep them. Ethan exhaled, a tremor in his chest. He said, I cannot love what devours me. Lily's voice softened. She said, you need not love it. Only see it without mask. Ethan opened his eyes and saw her calm face glow in lantern fire, while the water settled back into stillness. Marcus found Ethan alone near the rain chain, droplets beating in rhythm. He smirked, but his voice cracked faintly. He said, still at war with shadows? Ethan looked at him, tired eyes hollow. He said, I am beginning to see the war is with myself. Marcus scoffed, but the sound was thin. He said, better a war than silence that eats you. Ethan asked, does your silence eat you, Marcus? For a moment, Marcus' face shifted, a storm passing behind glass. He said, noise is easier than quiet. Ethan nodded, his anger softening. He said, we both chase something we cannot catch. Marcus turned away, jaw tense, hiding a fracture he could not mend. That night, Ethan sat once more in the meditation hall. The air smelled of pine smoke. He closed his eyes, hearing the storm of thoughts rise again. But then he remembered Rowan's words. The chain was never iron. He inhaled, and though the noise swirled, he did not clutch at silence. His chest loosened. He whispered, the shadow is only myself seen twice. The air thickened, yet he felt lighter. Master Rowan's presence filled the hall, though he had not entered. Lily sat quietly nearby, her gaze like an anchor. The bell did not sound, yet Ethan felt it within, steady and unshaken. A weight lifted, though nothing was gone. The storm returned with violent breath, thunder shaking the temple beams. Ethan sat alone in the meditation hall, his knees pressed into the tatami, his hands trembling against each other. He whispered, I cannot carry this weight. His chest tightened until it felt like ropes burning across his ribs. The shadows on the wall twisted with every flash of lightning. He said, I am breaking. Rain hammered the roof in wild rhythm, drowning the stillness. His breath came in ragged bursts, sharp and uneven. He pressed his forehead to the floor and cried, let it end. For the first time, he surrendered not in discipline, but in despair. His body sagged forward, no strength left to hold the posture. The silence within the roar was deeper than sound, and for a moment he felt the ground breathe through him. The rain grew harsher as Ethan collapsed fully, palms sliding apart. His body slumped onto the mat, chest heaving like a drowning man. His whisper broke the air. I am nothing. The words carried no rage, only surrender. He felt tears spill, soaking the mat beneath his cheek. For a moment, he thought the hall might crush him with silence. Then he realized the silence held him gently, like water cupping a fallen leaf. He said, if I am nothing, then I am free. A lightning flash lit the hall bright as day, but his body no longer resisted. He released the fist he had been clenching all his life, and his hands lay open on the floor. In that surrender, clarity struck not like thunder, but like dawn. Ethan's breath steadied without command. He whispered, this is peace, not sought, not forced. The weight inside dissolved into stillness, no longer battle but presence. He felt the sound of rain as rhythm rather than assault. The hall glowed softly in his mind, though the lantern was dim. He said, "I am no longer against myself." His heart slowed to a steady beat, each throb gentle as the koi surfacing in the pond. The silence he feared revealed itself not as void, but as ground. He inhaled deeply, a breath that carried no chains, and the night seemed to listen with him. Master Rowan entered without sound, his staff touching the floor only once. He looked at Ethan, who sat with new stillness, eyes closed. Rowan said, "The ground you sought has always been beneath you." Ethan lifted his eyes slowly, not startled, only calm. He said, "It was myself I fought." Rowan's gaze softened, but no praise passed his lips. He only nodded once, a gesture that carried the weight of mountains. Ethan lowered his head, not in shame but in reverence for the silence that filled the space. Rowan stood like a shadow anchored in light, his presence steady and unshaken. The storm eased toward dawn, and a thin light slipped through the paper walls. Ethan rose slowly, his body heavy yet light, in a way he had never known. He stepped outside into the damp courtyard. The air was clean, scented with pine and wet stone. A crow flew overhead, its wings carving silence into the morning sky. Ethan whispered, "Peace is not earned. It is allowed." His voice carried no urgency, only quiet truth. He walked barefoot across the stones, the cold grounding him. For the first time, his heart did not race ahead or linger behind. It moved with him, steady and unbroken. Morning spread gently across the temple as Ethan walked through the garden. The stones were still wet, and pine needles glistened. His steps carried no urgency. He breathed as if the world breathed with him. He whispered, "I am here." A breeze passed, stirring the koi pond, and he felt its rhythm within his chest. The storm's echo was gone, replaced by clarity that needed no defense. He saw Master Rowan watching from the veranda, his presence steady as stone. Rowan said, "Peace walks with you when you stop chasing it." Ethan bowed, not from duty but gratitude. He no longer fought the silence, he welcomed it. The temple grounds seemed new, though nothing had changed. Marcus leaned against the gate, watching Ethan pass. His eyes narrowed with something unspoken. He said, "You look different, but storms return." Ethan stopped, turned gently and said, "Let them. Storms are not enemies." Marcus scoffed, but the sound faltered, his shoulders carrying hidden weight. Ethan's calm unsettled him. A mirror, he resisted. He said, "Your calm will break like glass." Ethan shook his head, voice quiet as flowing water. He said, "Peace does not shatter, only the hand that clings." Marcus looked away, jaw tight, but his silence betrayed doubt. For the first time, his smirk did not return. By the pond, Lily sat cross-legged, her eyes resting on the koi. Ethan joined her, settling into silence beside her. She smiled gently and said, "You finally see silence as gift, not cage." Ethan nodded, his breath unhurried. He said, "I see myself no longer at war." Lily dipped her fingers into the pond, sending ripples outward. She said, "Even ripples belong to the water." Ethan watched, feeling the truth in her gesture. He whispered, "Imperfection is no wound." The koi surfaced, circles overlapping, and he felt harmony in their chaos. Lily's smile grew softer, her presence a quiet confirmation. Ethan entered the meditation hall alone. He settled on the cushion, hands open on his knees, breath steady. The hall held him without pressure, its silence no longer heavy. He said softly, "Silence sits within me." Outside the cicadas sang, but their sound folded into stillness rather than breaking it. He sat unmoving, no storm rising, no chain pulling. Master Rowan passed the doorway, his staff brushing wood lightly, yet he did not enter. Ethan opened his eyes briefly, then closed them again, his heart steady as stone lanterns. Near dusk, Ethan stood in the courtyard as the silent witness. Iris walked past with her lantern. She did not speak, but her presence was calm as the evening wind. Ethan bowed to her, and she nodded faintly, eyes gleaming with quiet knowing. For the first time, their silence was not distance, but kinship. Ethan whispered, "I walk with stillness now." Iris held the lantern high, and its light cast circles over the stone path. She continued on, no words needed, her peace flowing like unseen water. Ethan watched until the lantern disappeared, and he felt his own light burning quietly within. The morning opened like a quiet book as Quinn returned to the gate. Ethan met her with a bow that needed no words. She said, "The road bends again." He answered, "I will walk it as it walks me." The courtyard smelled of pine and cool stone, the bell still as the breath between thoughts. Quinn studied his face and found no battle there. She said, "Uncertainty is faithful." He smiled, not to convince but to agree with the weather. Lily watched from the veranda, her calm a shoreline. Ethan said, "I am not finished, and I am not lacking." The wind threaded the cypress, writing a sentence the day could keep. Quinn stepped aside so the path could be seen. Marcus found Ethan beside the rain chain, where the pool held a perfect circle. He said, "Your calm makes noise in my head." Ethan nodded as if hearing a distant bell. He said, "Noise softens when it is not hunted." Marcus stared at the water until his reflection blurred. He said, "I have built a city of argument." Ethan answered, "Let the streets empty once." Marcus laughed without armor, the sound brief and honest. Lily arrived with tea and said, "Sip, and let the cup be a room." Marcus took the cup and did not joke. The rain began lightly, and none of them moved. Master Rowan called Ethan to the garden where raked lines met the pond's edge. He said, "A teaching ends where seeing begins." Ethan stood with hands open, breath steady. He said, "I see I cannot keep or lose what I am." Rowan's eyes brightened like flint without spark. He said, "Walk without witness, and witnessing will find you." The koi surfaced and stitched light into water. Ethan bowed not to the man, but to the space that held them both. Rowan's staff touched stone once, a period at the end of a long sentence. The air felt newly washed, though no rain had fallen. At the cloister steps, Iris paused with her lantern unlit, a promise rather than a flame. She looked at Ethan and nodded as if to pass a key made of air. He said, "Thank you for the line you drew and erased." Iris smiled with the quiet of mountains. She walked on, and the floor creaked its old blessing. Quinn watched from the gate, ready to leave again. She said, "Every return is a new road." Ethan answered, "Every road is this step." The evening gathered itself without hurry, and the bell remained silent because it was not needed. At the hill beyond the temple, Ethan stood where the pines opened to a broad sky. The sun lowered, laying calm fire on the tiled roofs below. He said, "I am not lost. I am here." The words were not a claim but a resting place. The wind carried them and returned nothing, which was enough. Lily joined him and did not speak. Master Rowan remained in the garden, yet his presence felt near. The path ahead did not promise, it simply waited. Ethan breathed, and let the breath be the whole horizon.